Hello, good morning. It's just gone 8:30 a.m. on Friday, the 28th of February, last day of the month. It's March tomorrow. This is the picnic table. I had my bush box breakfast on recently, and this is the way I'm heading for today's little trip. Really excited. There's plenty of interest where we're going. I really want to share a place with you that I've really come to love. Tell you some great historical stories there, some anecdotes as well, and a couple of personal little experiences as well. So this section of the greenway has been closed recently, and it looks like it still is, to be honest. I'm not going to go through there. I think if the builders had finished and left and packed up, this wouldn't be here anymore. It still says diversion. So this is the course of the old railway heading out towards Radstock, which is where we're going, an old coal mining town. And there's a very sharp hill up here which actually drops down into Wellow. So it's going to be a good chance for me to test my cow horns on my bike. So I'll put a positive spin on it. Look at this sign, warning ducks. I must have passed that hundreds of times and never really taken much notice. Until one day I was coming up here to try and gain access to the church. There's all these ducks walking up and down and across, and round the corner where I'm going to stop and talk to you, it was actually holding the traffic up. You know, really considerate drivers. They were literally stopping in single files each way and letting all the ducks cross before they very slowly drove down. Then more ducks would go across. That was in deep midwinter. It's really misty up here, quite cold. I was trying to think, why there's so many ducks? And then I suddenly remembered, as you go down this track to the church, it leads down to a farm. And there's a duck pond down there, and quite often you get a few ducks down there. I thought it must be something to do with that. It wasn't. Again, I'll explain to you shortly. Yet, even further on, about another quarter of a mile, this is the boundary sign for Holcombe. The village is still round the corner, about another quarter of a mile. But there's the brown historic church sign. It actually appears to be pointing that way, but it actually should be down here. So that's where we'll be going. And I'd often ridden by that and noticed it. I thought one day I'll go down there and have a look. And then a few years back, before I discovered the church's conservation trust, I actually linked up all those places. You know, one day I'll go down there. And I visited, I think, about 6 churches, and this was the final one. This was the first time I came down here. And I thought, why on earth had I always ridden by and never taken the effort to go down? It was just amazing. We're not going to go down there now. Can you see down there, that white post? Our church is off to the right. It's a no-through road. And you can go that way to where we can collect the key. But we can also go in the village, and I'll show you the new church down there, and then we'll turn right and collect the key down there. Along here was where I was trying to describe about the ducks. They were all walking across here, and it is a bit like when you get traffic lights on the minor road. You know, all the cars were queuing up in single file to let other cars go by, and then stopping to let all the ducks go by. There's another duck warning sign as well. I'll tell you a funny duck story when we get down to the church, so sorry to keep spinning you on. Eventually we've arrived in the village, so it's just after that long drag up from Radstock, Hayden and Charlton. This is the summit of that grind, and then this is the southern slopes off this escarpment, and it's a really steep drop. See that ridge line up there? That's an old Roman road along there, going from Old Sarum that way to Charters up on the West Mendip plateau that way. It's what they refer to as the Lead Road. Margary's 45B, I've ridden that many times. This is Holcombe New Church, built in 1898, I believe. I'll give you some dates shortly, I've made some notes. Can you spot anything a little bit unusual? It's a church without a churchyard really. There's no graves. There is a cross there, but no graves. And there's a reason for that, and it's linked to the other church. Just pop in here quickly and show you around. It's a lovely location. So it's at the top of the hill. This is where the main village is nowadays. The old medieval village, it's believed, is where this church we're going to is. There's a lovely World War I memorial there to the local people from this village who served. You'll see them in many villages across the UK. And can you see right opposite, that'd be easy to miss, Scott's Close. That would be linked to Scott of the Antarctic. More about that when we get to the old church. This is fairly basic, but it's attractive. Open bell tower. preaching cross out here. I believe it is built in 1898 when the village migrated down here. Local legend has it was because of the plague, but I'm told it is more of a voluntary move where people just move more to the centre of the village where there'd be services like food and shops and work. It's a natural migration rather than a forced one. That's what I'm told. Don't think we get in here. Always try though. No. Stunning location. St Andrew's New Church. It's going to turn right here, retrace just a few yards, and there'll be a crossroads. So about 100 yards back, this really is the summit of Holcombe Hill. Lovely little memorial garden over there. Look at that shelter there. It's got a village library and a defib in it. And we're heading down here. This is called Stratton Lane because we're heading towards Stratton on the Foss. And then just as you leave the village, this will probably be the last residential dwelling. Round this corner is the Holcombe Inn. And there's Stratton on the Foss Abbey there. And here is the Holcombe Inn. There we go, the Holcombe Inn. So once I realised this is where the location was, I actually came out here one day. I think it's the day of the ducks and it wasn't open. I don't think it's open Monday and Tuesday. I've made a new friend, the pub cat. So there is the key. It looks like oldie world medieval style. It's actually quite recent and there's a story behind that. The first time I got this was about a year ago. I got to the church and it wouldn't open. It had only just recently been cut. I didn't realise that, and I tried and in the end I just thought, now I'm going to damage it, so I brought it back. That was failed attempt number 2. Very friendly in there. Just had to sign my name and give him the contact number. He's just told me it may be a bit stiff opening the door, so I've had a lot of rain recently and the door swells, so I might need to give the door a bit of a shove basically. Right, we've come in that way, going to carry along there, and then just round the corner there's a right hand turning, and here's our turning, about a quarter of a mile from the Holcombe Inn. This little minor crossroads, there's the Abbey. We're going to go down here. It's about another half a mile from the Holcombe Inn to here. I'm coming up to a left hand fork, so it's left hand fork from this direction. When I spoke to you on the outskirts of the village, off to the right, it was a right hand fork. Holcombe Old Church only. And that road up there was where I was telling you about the ducks crossing, stopping the traffic. Now we're heading down here. Almost instantly you pass this duck pond on your left hand side, and there's normally about half a dozen or so ducks in there. None today. First time I've ever seen it empty of ducks. Oh gosh, look at a deer running behind there. Just seen a deer goes by. Wow. As I said, I've ridden by many times before, normally on an old axe, either heading out wanting to accumulate distance, or on the way back towards the end of a long ride, just wanted to get home. And the first time I came down here on that church crawling ride, I was fighting the daylight. That first time I remember coming down here just in awe, thinking, why have I never been here before? There it is over there. Perching above it is its bigger sibling. The Abbey at Stratton on the Foss, although it looks medieval and Gothic, is just over 100 years old. It really is. I was quite surprised by that when I first read about it. This one, so can you see we're miles away from the village. This is where they think the old medieval village would have been. So you can see why it became redundant really. It's just too far away from the centre of gravity of the church. But for me that's fantastic because the location is superb. small little park area. We won't get the bikes through, so I've bought a lock for that. This is it, St Andrew's Old Church. It's beautiful. I've got the key. I've locked my bike up because there's a kissing gate and you would not get it through. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can get inside this time. There's some interesting stories. There's also a very sad story. I'll tell you about that later. Let's go and have a look at the church first. This is absolutely such a stunning location. A couple of lime trees, I'm told. Some seats in the sun. Last time I was here, it's probably one of the best days of last year, one of my highlights of last year. Look at that lovely ornamental porch stonework. I'll read you some details later on, but let's go and have a look first. There's also a really funny story about that stone. You may not quite see it, but it's carved. And that has puzzled scholars for a long time. The locals were telling me they've got a theory, and it makes complete sense actually, so I think sometimes you can overcomplicate things. Right, let's see if we can get in. Oh, no problem at all. The first time I tried this key, I'm now told it had only recently been cut. They wanted several spares. There's several key holders, so they wanted copies made for them, and that was cut from the original but wasn't quite activating the lock, and I thought it was just me maybe, and I didn't want to force it, but apparently it was a problem. When I was here, you can see there's some community notices. I saw a poster advertising an upcoming picnic here to commemorate the opening season for this church. It's open to the public on Saturdays and Sundays. And I thought I'll come back for that, and I did. When we've been inside and I've showed you around, I'll tell you about that picnic because it was just a fantastic occasion. So although I've been here a few times, that was the first and only time I've been in here after several attempts. Okay. Lots of box pews. It really has been kept in its period condition. So this was the church for Holcombe until the late 19th century, when, as I said, the whole village had pretty migrated up there about a mile and they built a new church. Gosh, look at that unusual pulpit. Lots of light flooding in because it's a lovely sunny day, but as usual, walk through the chancel and the atmosphere changes straight away. Much darker. Fairly unusual altar there. Oh, look at that. I would love to camp here, I really would, but it's not possible. I was talking to the lady Marie who organised the picnic, and she was saying there's just not enough facilities here, very limited parking, there's no running water, there's no electricity, and it reminded me of my first ever experience camping at Edinburgh. That was similar, but they found, although I enjoyed it, most people didn't really like that. Camping is a fairly new concept, so I think they're just working out as they go. They're working out what works and what doesn't. Oh, they've asked no access. I won't go up there. No access to bell tower either, as bats are roosting in the belfry. All these old hooks. I'll get the page up shortly because those old coat hooks are mentioned in it. That lovely old balcony. This is wonderful. When I came here last time, it was, I think, Saturday, May the 4th of last year, and I bought myself a picnic out. I bought myself a Greggs roll, and I bought a small bottle of Prosecco Rosé, and I even bought my plastic wine glass. And I thought, if you come into a picnic, at least make the effort. And the locals were quite impressed with it. I actually got a few comments about the wine glass. A cyclist with his own wine glass. Oh, let's have a look at the visitors book. Nearly 2 pages for February. February starts there, Radstock, Chilcompton, Holcombe, Wells. I think that says Frome, Holcombe, Brazil? Is that Brazil? Yeah. Radstock, Clifton, Frome, Teddington, Middlesex, England, London, Old Redhouse Farm, Bath, Somerset. That's me today, the 28th. So 5 days since the last visitor. Andy C, Bath, Somerset, numbering party 1. Visiting a stunning church that I've come to adore, because I have. Always fascinated by who was here recently, where they came from, and any comments they make. Amazing. Delightful and peaceful. It is. This is just, I've just come to love this place. I really, really have. And it's free, and you can get the key pretty much anytime you want. And in summer weekends, I believe it will again be open this year, Saturdays and Sundays. I'm so paranoid about that key, losing it. It's the location here, I think, that just blows me away. I bought my own picnic out today, actually. I'm either going to sit there in the sun, or probably more likely there, I think. Lovely stonework on the arch and the pillars. We'll walk around the back. So when I came here that occasion, when I saw all the ducks up on the road, I just thought it's probably something to do with that duck pond. And when I passed the duck pond, there were a few down there, but not that many. And then as I walked through the churchyard here, I could hear the overpowering sound of ducks. And I thought, I've got to go and see what it is. Can you see we're leaving the old churchyard into the new burial ground, and I saw that gate over there, and you just sense there's a river valley down there. I thought, there must be a stream or a duck pond down there. And as I got about here, the sound was overpowering of ducks, not just a few, hundreds. And so I walked across this gate to try and see what was happening, and you can see you're coming off a hillside. There's clearly a little stream down there, and I was looking for a duck pond. You can see some water down there, and you see that field over there. I just saw this big black circle there. I got my phone and I zoomed in, and I saw it was hundreds, if not a few thousand ducks in a big circle, and there was just a gap in the middle, and there's one person feeding them. And then when I zoomed in a bit further, I could see there was a tractor or a farm vehicle over there, and it was literally hundreds, as I said, if not a couple of thousand ducks forming a big circle around him. Made me think of that Harry Potter scene where they go in that cave and all the spiders came in around them, and it was like that, and you could just see them feeding them. And I thought there must be a duck farm over there, and then I thought, is there such a thing as a duck farm? There must be. And that was just, the sound was just overpowering. So that explains the duck story. As I said, I came here last year, around about April I think, and I got the key eventually. Thought, great, my 4th or 5th attempt, I will get in today. Then I just could not engage the lock. The key had recently been cut, and it just hadn't been cut quite accurately enough. And that's when I saw the poster in the porchway. Marie, who's the southern coordinator, I believe, for the church's conservation trust, had organised this picnic. And when I got here, the church was already open. There was a nice lady in there explaining the local history to us and telling us a little bit about the church. That was really nice. And then I came out and sat on one of these, sat out on one of these seats, and it was a lovely day like this, really bright sunshine. The previous few days had been quite wet. and Marie came and introduced herself, and she's really, really nice, very pleasant. And she was saying to me she wasn't sure how many people were going to turn up and whether they would bring food or not, so she'd baked all these flapjacks and had them in a big Tupperware and was offering them around. I was wondering, being an outsider, not local, whether I'd maybe feel a little bit out of place, so I was just going to have a quick snack and disappear. I have to say the locals were really, really lovely. They came here in numbers actually. I'll put a picture up on the screen now. There's quite a good turnout. Monday, and I got sat with this one lady, and I just said I'm a bit of a history geek and nerd. She said, "Oh, I am as well." Me and her hit it off really well, and she's telling me all the local history. She had come here about 25 years ago, fallen in love with the village, and then her and her husband had moved in and renovated up an old property. So she was wonderful to talk to, and her and her husband also rode a tandem as well, so we had lots in common. But she was telling me about all the history, so I'll share some of that with you shortly. But first of all, I'll read off the CCT page about this church.
So I've got the page up. As I always say, there'll be a link to this in the description below. The overview, it says, in the shadow of the great Abbey of Downside, a mile from its village, down a farm track through fields, old St Andrew's Church is set beautifully against a backdrop of tall trees, with the great Abbey of Downside towering beyond. St Andrew's is simple and unassuming outside, but the south porch is of great antiquarian interest. Inside, the church has a treasure trove of Georgian furnishings, including box pews, pulpit, desk, west gallery and hat pegs. Everything here is delightfully unrestored and atmospheric. This is from Wikipedia. It says the interior includes the late Georgian box pews and a Jacobean pulpit. It goes on to say, in the graveyard is a memorial to the family of Robert Falcon Scott, a Scot of the Antarctic, whose father managed a brewery in the village, so he came from here. There is also a yew tree that is thought to be about 1500 years old. The original medieval village was buried at the time of the plague, and St Andrews is surrounded by mounds that bear testimony to this burial. It is suggested that the rhyme, "Ring a ring of roses," began there as a result. An alternative explanation relates to the drowning of 5 children from the village.
When I was having that picnic here last year, it was just wonderful. It's so funny. It's such a pleasant memory. It's all coming back here. And they said, "Have you seen our upside down carving?" I said, "No." And they brought me round and they showed me this. I actually had spotted it, believe it or not, and I just thought, it's quite faint, it looks unreadable, it's probably Latin. It's not, it's English, and it's upside down. And according to the booklet here, it's puzzled scholars for many, many years. And the people told me their theory is that it was an illiterate stonemason. Because if you think about it, a stonemason may just have been given a parchment to carve, and he carved it as he read it. Most people at the time would not have been able to read. So if he was given a parchment with all these squiggles on, because that's what it would have meant to him, he just copied what he saw without realising it was upside down. And that just makes such complete sense, doesn't it? I don't know if it's true, and they said they don't know if it's true, but it's certainly feasible, isn't it? And I like to think that is true. So the illiterate stonemason. I said to Marie, the organiser, "I understand there's a connection with Scott of the Antarctic here." And she said, "Yes, his parents are buried in the churchyard." She said, "Do you want to see?" And she took me round, showed me. So they're round the side of the church. And it's this one, if I remember right. His parents and I believe his brother. So Scott to the Antarctic actually came from this village. and his father worked at the brewery, and his parents are buried there along with his brother, I believe. This is the original churchyard. That's why there's no graves at St Andrew's New Church. They all get buried here, even though the church is no longer in regular use. And the council have recently bought this plot of land here, so the locals can continue to be buried here. These are much more recent graves. And now there's a sad story. It's about the 5 children who died. This is from another website. It's about the tragic accident at Christmas 1899. Link below. A tragic accident at Christmas 1899 in memory of the 5 lambs of Holcombe. On the 20th of December 1899, 5 children left the local school at about 12:15 p.m, heading towards a small cattle drink, a high walled pond with a sloping bottom, which was frozen over and was near the Holcombe Inn. They had not been there long and were attempting to slide on the ice with a few other friends watching from the side. There was a crack and suddenly 5 of the children fell through. The others tried to save them to no avail. The alarm was raised and a local farmer came to help out. Tragically, it was too late. They were all recovered from under the ice and news soon spread, causing shockwaves through the tight-knit community. 3 of the children were siblings. At the inquest held at the Holcombe Inn, that's where we've got the key from, a jury returned a verdict of death by misadventure by drowning. They were buried on Christmas Eve at Holcombe Church, where it's said there were over 1,000 mourners. They are buried together in a single grave with a beautiful memorial stone carved from a single slab of marble depicting 5 intertwined lambs. That's quite sad, isn't it? Right. An extract from the downloadable booklet says, the gable incorporates a recut Norman arch with a zigzag around it and short rolls inserted at intervals. Above the arch, in place of the keystone, is a 16th century carved angel with wings outstretched and arms folded. It's a zigzag arch, and there's the angel, wings outstretched, arms folded. Again, you can download that booklet in PDF form from the CCT page, links in the description below. So I referred to the plague. So here's another excerpt from that booklet. It says, to the left side of the swing gate. So from here it'd be right up there. A rough, uncultivated mound in the field is said to be that of the burial site of victims of the Black Death or Plague, 1348-49, which started in the western counties, also claiming the rector of Holcombe. Locally, this is still known as the Plague Church. From the gate to the churchyard, the path to the porch lies between 2 lime trees. That's those. It was thought there were many victims of the plague here, and that's their burials over there. The historian that I was talking to last year, Anne-Marie from the CCT, was telling me several years ago, Channel 4's Time Team archaeologists came here and they did some excavations over there and they couldn't find any trace of burials at all. So they think that's probably a myth that's just been, they think that's just a legend that's been passed down through the generations, that it's just stuck. The locals still refer to this as the Plague Church, and I always thought it was as well, just basically because I believed what I read. What Channel 4's Time Team did find was some Roman relics, and I think there was actually a Roman road down here, because we're not far from the Fossway. In fact, we're going to ride on a bit of it later on. But although this is still known as the Plague Church, locally, there's no evidence to support that whatsoever. There's a few people starting to arrive actually. I just let one gentleman in, having a nice chat with him. He's a mature student, he's doing art classes, and he actually comes to see a tutor out here actually, although he did his course at Bath Tech College, and he's come in here to do a project. That's him just leaving, so I let him in the church because I've got the key. There's other people coming down here, whether they just stop here for lunch or not, I don't know. I'm starting to feel like I'm hogging the key, so I'm gonna start packing up and making my way back to the Holcombe Inn shortly, I think. I just feel a bit guilty about sat here hogging the key. Lovely spring day, look, crocus out, some daffodils. So these are the 2 lime trees you walk through on the way from the gate to the porch, and to the best of my knowledge that must be the 1500-year-old yew tree. That's the only one I can really see that fits the description. What a beautiful place. Listen to all the bird song. St Andrew's Old Church, Holcombe. I've come to absolutely love this place. Okay, going to walk back to my bike and then start thinking about taking the key back. One last little memory from last year. We were all sat there. There was quite a few of us sat there on 2 of the seats. Now people sat out in the grass. Lovely day, and I decided to go for a walk because I knew there's the river valley down there, and I felt my bike was safe here with so many people watching it. So I walked down there towards where I thought the ducks had been that time, and it was a lovely spring day, and I walked down into a wooded valley with a small stream going by. It was carpets of white down there with wild garlic. That was May the 4th of last year, so I'm going to come back in early May this year to try and see that again, because that was absolutely amazing. And I bumped into a couple actually down there who had just walked over from Stoneyston, and I said there's a picnic up here and the church is open, so they followed me back up, so I brought 2 more people to the picnic. Just such a wonderful memory. Okay, I think I feel like I ought to take the key back just in case other people want it. This will be the 2nd YouTube video within a week, because I've done these 2 trips within a week. My next video will be a few weeks, I expect, unless anything comes up in the meantime, because it's March tomorrow and I really want to get my March around the year ride sorted and done sooner rather than later, and that'll be the 11th of my 12 months. I probably won't film it, but what I have decided to do is finish off that series, month 12, April, with a 300-kilometre event, so I'll probably vlog that. Oh yeah, right. Anyway, with that in mind, if you've got this far, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.